Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Luna and I'm thrilled to have you here for today's video. But before we dive in, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future videos. Now, let's jump right into it. Today, we're diving into the world of photo editing as we explore the incredible capabilities of BU Lightroom. If you've ever wondered how to enhance your photos, add that perfect touch, or transform your captures into visual masterpieces, you're in the right place. Along with organization, post-processing is one of the crucial pillars of Lightroom. It's also one of the most personal parts about photography, and your individual post-processing style has a major effect on the way your photos ultimately look. It's a crucial way to differentiate your work from the rest of the market. At a broad level, a good philosophy for post-processing is that your final result should look natural. If someone immediately thinks one of your photos looks fake, they aren't likely to see it in a very positive light. Still, if you're a color high photographer who throws conventions in the wind and you want otherworldly contrast and bright red skis in your photograph, you can do that in Lightroom too. But Lightroom isn't as advanced as Photoshop in terms of the sheer number of post-processing options it offers, but it certainly includes the most important options. Unless you are focused on conceptual studio, advertising photos, which could require intense levels of retouching and photo blending. The options in the Develop module will likely be enough for most of your photos. Personally, I spend more time in Lightroom than Photoshop, and most of my work is in the Develop module. Let's start with the Develop sliders. The heart of the Develop module is the right-hand sidebar, the post-processing sliders. This is where you change the brightness, contrast, saturation colors, and other global image edits. The Develop sliders affect the entire photograph rather than just a specific part. A note on what I mean by this, yes, something like the shadows retaliate slider will affect the shadows more than the rest of the photo, but it will affect all the shadows equally across the entire image. So it's still a global adjustment. Most of them are fairly intuitive, and it isn't worth spending 1,000 words describing how shadows affects the brightness of the shadows in a photo, and contrast boosts the overall contrast of your scene. Play around with these sliders, and you'll get a better feel for what they do. However, I'll create more videos that dive into more detail on some specific topics. Now, how to make local adjustments beyond the Lightroom sliders. There are a set of local adjustments that you can make to your photos too. These can be very useful. Say that you want to highlight the importance of one particular part in your photo. A simple solution is to do a local adjustment and brighten that single area of your image. Which local adjustments does Lightroom offer? It depends upon the version that you have. However, at the most, you'll be able to set 5 local adjustments: spot removal, red eye correction, graduated filters, radial filters, and adjustment brushes. Let's start with healing. This is one of Lightroom's most useful features. Have you ever taken a photo where your camera sensor has dust specks? They show up as small, annoying blobs in different parts of an image, or you want to remove a small spot? The healing tool is intended to eliminate dust specks, as well as other parts of your photo that need to be healed. For example, if you're trying to get rid of this kangaroo, you could use the healing tool to clone it out. To see the photo more closely, you'll probably want to zoom in, press the Z key, or go to the navigator in the left-hand tab and choose the magnification that you want. You'll notice that there are 3 options within the spot removal tool: Content Aware Remove, Heal, and Clone. All of them work by sourcing the replacement pixels from some other part of the photo. The first is the Content Aware Remove tool. It's a tool to remove objects. I found it can be a little hit and miss. If you choose Clone, Lightroom replaces your spot healed section using the exact pixels from the source area. If you choose Heal, Lightroom replaces your spot healed section a bit more flexibly, using its algorithms to determine how it thinks those pixels should look. Though it still uses the source pixels as a baseline. I find that I generally get better results with Heal, but for hard edges, it sometimes does a poor job replacing pixels. In that case, Clone can be a better option. Although the healing isn't as advanced as Photoshop's healing brush and similar features, it does its job. Unless you want to do extensive spot removal adjustments, it should be good enough in most cases. Next is Red Eye Correct. I don't take pictures of people very often, so I don't think I've ever needed to use this tool. However, if you used on camera flash and ended up with red eye in one of your photos, or if you're editing images that someone else took, this is a nice option. Pretty self-explanatory. The only tip I have is to zoom in on the photo again by pressing Z, which should make it easier to click on the right spot. The next one is graduated filler. This tool, on the other hand, I use all the time if you ever need to adjust part of a photo and not the rest. Your goal should be to make everything look as natural as possible. You don't want any halos around your subject. It just looks weird. The graduated filter tool is a great help for this exact reason, essentially. It allows you to adjust all the normal settings, brightness, saturation, contrast, and etc., but only to part of the photo. And specifically, it adjusts the photo along a smooth gradient. If you want a darker sky, for example, it can be difficult to make it look natural without affecting the horizon line as well. In such a situation, my go-to would be the gradient tool, since it is a very gentle adjustment. A gradient going from slightly above the horizon to slightly below would be very difficult to spot and is likely to look much more natural than most other local adjustments would. Of course, it's still possible to mess up the graduated filter. It doesn't automatically create a seamless result. Also, if you want to see the exact area that your adjustment is targeting, here's a useful tip. Presto. You'll see the area of your gradient highlighted in red, which makes things pretty easy. Finally, it's worth noting that some later versions of Lightroom allow you to edit the gradient that you've created using the brush option. This can be useful if your gradient works well across most of the photo, but there's a small bit that you don't want it to affect. Not all versions of Lightroom have this option, but it's nice if yours happens to include it. The next one is radial filter. It's similar to the graduated filter. In this case, your gradient is circular or oval shaped, but otherwise acts exactly like the graduated filter tool. I use this tool quite often since, once again, it is one of the gentler ways to make a local adjustment. If you're trying to brighten a subject in a photo, for example, this tool can be very useful. The only additional point to mention is that the radial filter can be inverted too. It means that you get to choose whether the filter affects the area outside or inside the circle or oval that you draw. You can switch between them simply by checking or unchecking the invert mask option. The last of Lightroom's local adjustment options is the adjustment brush. This one is as simple as it gets. As if you're using Microsoft Paint, you just paint over all the areas that you want to adjust. Also, if you apply the adjustment brush without care, it's easy to get strange halos around your subjects. Always watch out and double check that your edits look as natural as possible. With those qualifications, Lightroom's adjustment brush can be a great tool. It's the most flexible way to edit your photos selectively, which makes it a very useful option to have at your disposal. Another really useful feature is that you can sync your editing preferences using Sync Develop setting. It will often be the case that you want to edit two photos similarly, or perhaps the exact same way. For example, when I'm taking wildlife photos, the light doesn't change very quickly from photo to photo. This means that I can use the same developed settings on several photos in a row without a problem. You could do this the slow way, editing photo after photo with exactly the same settings. However, there's a much quicker way to do this, syncing the developed settings. How do you sync the developed settings from photo to photo? Really easy. Edit one of your photos however you want. This is what you'll copy the settings from. Enter the grid view of the library module. Highlight all the photos that ideally would have identical developed settings. You can do this by holding down the Shift key and clicking the first and last photos of the group. If you're poor, you can hold down the Control key command on a Mac and click each photo individually. Now that all the photos are highlighted, click once on the already edited photo. The other photo should remain highlighted, but the already edited photo should be highlighted brighter than the rest. Right-click on any of the highlighted photos, go to Develop Settings and Sync Settings. The dialog will pop up asking which of the developed settings you want to sync. Remember that any local adjustments you've made may not appear in the right spot in other photos, assuming that your composition changed from shot to shot. Photo Merge. This option lets you blend together photos as an HDR or as a panorama to merge photos together. You'll want to highlight all of them. Again, to do so, you need to hold down the Shift key, then click the first and the last photo that you want to merge. And right-click and go to Photo Merge, then HDR or Photo Merge, then Panorama. In both cases, a dialog will pop up that gives you a few options. For example, we have a photo with 3 different brightness and want to make a HDR photo merge. One is normal and one is dark, and the other one is bright. By merging them, we get a good HDR photo. The completed photo looks something like this. Dating externally. As nice as Lightroom's develop options are, you still may want to edit your photos in different software from time to time. Personally, I use Photoshop for certain images, those which require complex edits like focus stacking that Lightroom does not allow. To edit a photo externally, just right-click and select Edit in Adobe Photoshop, or edit in whatever software you want to use. By default, when you save the photo in your external software, a copy of the photo reappears inside Lightroom. This is very useful. You can change the specific settings for the reopened photo by clicking at the very top Edit menu, then Preferences. When you open the Preferences dialog, go to the header labeled External Editing, and you can adjust the settings for photos that are reopened from other post-processing software. If there's something you can't do in Lightroom, you can almost always accomplish it via an external editor or an external plugin. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends and hit subscribe for more Lightroom tutorial. Until next time, keep creating and capturing those amazing moments. See you in the next video.